So we've been job hunting for a full year this week. I stopped counting applications after about 600. That was just over 2 months ago. So if I were to take my average applications per month, I'm approaching 750, 800 applications at this point.
Goldman Sachs issues a fresh round of economic warnings, painting the grim picture that we're probably already in a recession, as we have the worst seasonal job market since 2009 during the global financial crisis. And according to economists, we now have the worst labor market in 50 years outside of a recession. So today we're going to go through all of that data, including listening to mom and pop themselves. Now, our ending segment is on some of the reasons why this is happening, such as the $173 trillion that's leveraged up against our homes. The housing market is only worth $55 trillion. So $173 trillion in leverage, $55 trillion as far as how much the housing market's worth. You guys probably are starting to see the leverage issues that we have going on in our country. And having said that, welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. You guys already know that this video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Coming out Wednesday, the 22nd, this year is shaping up to be the worst seasonal job market since 2009. Here are the major retailers hiring and pulling back. 3 bullet points. Retailers are hiring fewer seasonal workers this year, but more people, and this is the bad thing, want jobs versus last year. So less jobs, more people want those jobs. Things aren't looking good in the labor market. The mismatch has an economist drawing comparisons to the Great Recession. Here are the different hiring approaches major retailers are taking for the holidays. America's annual holiday shopping rush is usually preceded by a hiring sprint as retailers beef up their line workforces to meet the masses. But, and there's a big but this year there aren't as many jobs available at major retailers as there has been over the past years. Retail hiring rates are the lowest since 2009, according to the Challenger report. The cautious pace of announcement so far suggests that companies are not betting on a big seasonal surge. Data from the job site Indeed also shows the retail listings at the beginning of October were lower than the same point over the last 4 years. Again, you guys, that's from Indeed. Things have really slowed down in the hiring space in the last couple of years. Indeed economist says, even the postings that remain, we're seeing that they're not pushing as hard to get into these jobs as quickly. While employers are slowing down, they have also found that more people are looking for jobs. And I highlighted this in red because it's a lot more. Searches on Indeed for seasonal jobs are already well outpacing last year's rate, which are notably higher than prior years. With the broader U.S. labor market in a quasi-frozen state, seasonal jobs look increasingly like a lifeline for workers who are trying to earn some income and get moving with their careers. That's not good. Employers are just not hiring. The best comparison we have is the years immediately following the Great Recession in terms of hiring. So again, you guys, that's not good. Now, it is interesting because Bath & Body Works plans on hiring 32,000 people. Dick's Sporting Goods plans on adding 14,000, Kohl's a couple thousand, but I'm going to tell you guys, it's really easy to say that. It's really hard to actually hire 32,000 people and have them keep their jobs. This also goes on and says Amazon, which is said to be picking up 250,000 full-time / part-time jobs. But the other thing that I'm reading about Amazon is so confusing. I read an article before making this video that said they're about to lay off 500,000 people due to AI robots. So I don't know what to believe anymore, but this goes on. Target said it plans to primarily rely on a combination of additional hours for their existing staff and a flexible workforce of some 43,000 people. Macy's and UPS, which has previously staffed up big during the holiday season, did not respond to requests for comment for this story, which is definitely not good. Let's listen to this young man that couldn't make it in New York that is now having to live with his parents. And I want to tell you guys, if you have that option, you should take it. You should definitely take it. I moved in with my parents in my mid-20s and then eventually my sister. So it's a good opportunity. I'm telling you, super depressing though at the time, but it's a good opportunity to rebound. Let's listen to what he's going through.
So I just got laid off from my finance job. And after 8 years of living in New York City, I am moving back in with my parents at 26 years old. And honestly, I have felt stuck ever since graduating college. But somehow I am feeling optimistic about this, and I am ready to challenge myself in a way that I never have. I'm a former Ivy League graduate. I played Division I football as a quarterback there, and I took the finance route just like everyone around me. And I have been fitting into this mold that is not me for nearly 5 years now. And I know the me of the last 4 years would take this horribly and see it as me being a failure, but I'm going to take a different approach. So here's my plan. I'm going to use this as a launching point to rediscover who I am, what I have passions about, what hobbies do I want to pursue, what career do I want to pursue, do I want to build something myself, or do I want to join something that I truly believe in?
Why hasn't the U.S. officially called a recession?
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to run the economy hot. That means that they're trying to increase top line revenue, but they're ignoring the bottom side of the expenses, which is mom and pop. And I've got a handful of statistics that prove the point and actually come back to that young gentleman that hope is not lost. So bear with me for a second. There's approximately 34.8 million private businesses in the United States. They employ roughly 45.9% of all American workers. Give or take, 70% of them have debt, and the amount of debt that they have is roughly $459,000. So to make a long story short, even the businesses are mom and pop suffering from the exact same thing that mom and pop are suffering from, which is the inflation and the cost of living. Everything has gone up, and those businesses themselves are having a hard time making ends meet. Well, one has to then ask why. The answer is the financialization. The economy has turned into financialization, which now dominates society. And historically, this leads to disorder. So everybody was then saying, okay, what about the technology and what about the finance? And as I touched on yesterday, that's not the answer. That's the problem. Because just like in the great industrial revolution, goods were produced. Financialization doesn't produce goods. It produces debt. It produces leverage. And when you're taking the transfer of risk, the government and corporations, and transferring that risk to the back of mom and pop, bad things are going to happen. They are happening now. Well, coming back to this young fella, you've got 34 million businesses across the United States that need talent to help get their debts paid down, to help improve the revenue stream for those companies. So those who have the opportunity, that's a pretty decent opportunity. You walk into a company, you can save that company, you can get that company to grow. How much are you worth to that company? 34.8 million companies need help. There's plenty of opportunity if you know where to look.
There's been plenty of opportunity for the government to be honest about us being in a recession. And I want to remind the viewers that during the global financial crisis, I believe we were in recession for about a year, a little less than a year before they actually called it. So it took, I believe, Lehman Brothers to go bankrupt and belly up for them to even acknowledge to the public, okay, you guys, we've been in a recession for the last 10 months. I believe we're looking at something similar going on right now. And I'm also suspicious because the government is currently shut down. Now, before I ask that question and we dig into that more, let's take a look at one more article. Coming out Tuesday, the 21st, this is the worst the job market has looked outside of a recession in 50 years, says Goldman Sachs, meaning bullish GDP estimates are too optimistic. You guys may remember us getting actually pretty high GDP growth, but remember, they can either revise that or we can go from a high GDP straight into recession. Goldman Sachs warned that the US GDP estimates showing 3.8% growth in Q2 and 3.3% in Q3 may be overstated, owing to missing data from the government shutdown and a weakening labor market trend. He pointed to falling employment indicators and survey data signaling stagflation, arguing job market weakness offers a more accurate gauge of current growth. He also cited temporary boosts from tariff-driven stockpiling earlier this year and warned, and this is the big problem here, that younger workers face growing hiring challenges, particularly as AI adoption reshapes labor demand. Now, despite the stock market rallying steadying, the Fed is expected to cut rates at least once more before the end of the year. And with the growth trajectory looking positive because of the inflation, Wall Street has every reason to celebrate, right? Well, not quite, according to him. He warns that employment may prove to be a thorn in the side of the rosy outlook, definitely in the side of mom and pop that they stopped caring about some time ago, coupled with changing business behavior in reaction to shifting policies from the White House. On the employment side, he noted, the labor market outlook in surveys such as manufacturing and service growth has fallen well below 50, consistent with employment stagnation or even contraction. As a result, Goldman's labor market tightening tracker, which averages out data including the estimated unemployment rate, estimated job openings, the Confidence Board labor market differential, and the New York Fed job openings, job findings expectations, to name a few, has eased to 2016 levels as it continues to trend downward. Also, household surveys are already very negative. For example, the expected change in the unemployment rate over the next year has never been this bad outside recessionary period since the University of Michigan started doing this in 1978. So, if we were to look through the lines, we can probably safely say we're already in a recession. In fact, we could probably safely say they've been bailing us out of a depression for a minimum of 5 years. He also echoed the concern of high-profile economists relating to job prospects for younger individuals in particular. Earlier this year, that it's just gotten tough for people entering the labor force to be hired. That being said, Powell warned that if talent possesses tech skills, they were more likely to land roles and even do great, he added. What is he talking about? Like, tech layoffs are the worst right now. If you don't have the skills, though, you're increasingly left with less attractive employment options. Not good at all. Mitch, let's be reasonable human beings right now. What do you think the probability is that they're cooking the data through the government shutdown to backdate the recession? How high a probability do you think that is?
I think, change that. We know that the data is cooked, and it is constantly cooked. The data always lags. So are they going to try to manipulate it further at this point? Probably not. There's enough bad coming through the system now with regard to layoffs at the government level, plus what the government may lay off due to the closure. So it's one problem after another, and they do tend to keep increasing. What the White House is doing is trying to get the top line revenue up, which is good. Problem is nobody's protecting the back door, and the back door is mom and pop. And if somebody was truly sincere about fixing this problem, job one, repeal the real estate tax in favor of the uniform state sales tax, because it would make a massive difference to the survival of mom and pop, to the point where 37.8% of the household population could keep a roof over their head. And as you're starting to see, you've got people, and the kid was successful, even though he was in New York, couldn't afford to live there. Nonetheless, he was there and he was doing things. Now he's back home living with mom and pop. And that story repeats itself thousands of times a day. Protect mom and pop, de facto, you protect the economy. Don't protect them, the economy will break. And to that point, what is the economy? Well, right now where we are is an asset bubble. And it's an asset bubble caused by the financialization. And that means that finance doesn't put any money, financialization doesn't put any money in your pocket. What it does is it increases the cost of goods through inflation. And you don't receive any value through financialization. That was the point I was making on the great industrialization. When things were being built, there's value. Financialization does not add value. It transfers risk.
I'll tell you what, Mitch, I hope they open the government and just slam that recessionary button down and say, recession is here. I hope they do that sooner rather than later. Now, before talking to the viewers about the $173 trillion that's leveraged up against mom and pop's house, let's first listen to 3 different young Americans that are currently in the job market looking for work. And I want you guys to pay attention to their struggles, because it's likely that this is just going to get worse.
My company just sent out an email that they're laying off a large group of people tomorrow morning. In case you're new here, I was laid off in March this year. It took me 6 months to find a new job. Got a new job 7 weeks ago, and now this new job has announced hundreds of layoffs. What? What am I supposed to do here? Is this like a last one in, first one out situation? Is it like get rid of all the like highest paid people? Is it like keep the new hires because they were hired under a secret pretense of like knowing that these layoffs would be coming, and so we like definitely want the new people? That's gotta be it, right? I'm not even eligible for my corporate benefits. That's how little time I've been at this new job. I'm not even eligible for PTO. I'm not eligible for medical benefits yet. I still have a week to go. You're telling me that I might get laid off before I even get a chance to sign up for that?
Someone explain to me how I have 4 degrees and still can't get a job. BA in communication, BA in Spanish, BFA in dance. Get ready for this one. Master's degree in freaking journalism. Mind you, I've gotten laid off not once, not twice, but 3 times in the span of 2 years. So if you're feeling behind, just know you're not alone. Basically, we're all cooked.
If I hear one more person or read one more comment that says, oh, you'll get paid when all this is over, I don't know why you're worrying. Getting paid when all this is over is not paying my bills today. We are dealing with the consequences of someone else's actions. So don't you dare blame me for not being prepared. Oh, you should have money in savings. Oh, you're a federal employee. You should be prepared for this kind of stuff. No, that's where you're wrong. I shouldn't have to take out of my savings because someone else can't do their freaking job. Meanwhile, I'm here being essential, taking care of people, and I can't even do my job, but I'm the one getting yelled at and cussed out because still someone else's actions. Have some compassion.
Now let's talk about leverage, and I only want to talk about the leverage that we can quantify on the surface as it pertains to mom and pop's houses. So we're going to look at mortgage-backed securities and we're going to look at municipal bonds. And we're going to try to figure out how much they've leveraged that up, knowing that both of those things, again, the collateral is our homes, whether we like it or not. So let me scroll down here. First of all, I want you guys to understand that according to Investopedia, the mortgage-backed security market is about $11 trillion. Now, of the $11 trillion, approximately 34% is held by banks. And unfortunately, 19% is held by money managers, shadow banks, non-banks, and people like that. And when we go to the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston and we look at the SLR, or the leverage amount for banks that are more than $250 billion in total assets, the current regulation requires that these banks' Tier 1 capital amounts are 3%. That means that they can lever up those mortgage-backed securities 33 to 1. Now, I've already done the math, so just remember this, guys. As far as banks, so right now, banks have 34%, which is 3.74 trillion. Because this SLV is only 3%, that 3.74 trillion can be turned into $123 trillion. That's almost triple the total size of the housing market. Now, the bigger problems, more fraud more than likely, is the money managers. They're sitting on 19% of mortgage-backed security. Now, say up the collateral leverage to 5%, that means they could turn $2.09 trillion into $41.8 trillion. That is absolutely insane, and it's not just mortgage-backed securities. Remember, you guys, municipal bonds are also levered against our homes, even if you have a mortgage or not. And I wanted to first point out that the U.S. municipal bond market is roughly $4.2 trillion. As you guys can see right here, according to NASDAQ.com, they can leverage up municipal bonds between 2 to 3 times. So when we take $4.2 trillion of municipal bonds, and let's just go up 200%, not the 300%, that's $8.4 trillion. Now, the total combination of both that leverage is $173 trillion. But look at this, guys. According to Zillow, the U.S. housing market is only worth $55 trillion. Raise your hand if you signed up for that type of leverage. Now, I call that segment the true cost of leverage is the cost of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mitch Vexler, can I get your final thoughts?
I want to go through 5 things real fast. Gross domestic product is a measurement, part of the measurement of a recession. Unemployment rate, part of the measurement. Industrial production, part of the measurement. Retail sales, part of the measurement. Real income, part of the measurement. All these things get rolled up into indicators that are used by the Federal Reserve, BLM, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the point. You want to know what's not in any of that information? The simple fact that the median household income of the property owners, households, cannot irrefutably pay off the bonds, the fraudulent bonds of the school districts. All that information that they claim is the calculation components of the recession is missing the biggest component. Think of that one. Median household income doesn't exist to pay off the bonds. Please explain exactly how we're not in a recession.
Now, in conclusion, cut the expenses in your life the best of your ability. I know you guys got subscriptions. I know you guys are going out to eat. If you're not, I'm sorry for saying that, but more than likely you are. So please cut that out of your budget. And also, if you still have the opportunity, maintain being an asset to your employer. Great attitude, show up with great punctuality, dress nice, and be super nice to other people. But I would say, you guys, the biggest thing of all, remember how important you are. Don't let go of your hope and love your people. Understand how important you are. At least you're important to me. And having said that, I love you. All right. So I hope you guys do well out there. And if you're out there investing in life, yourself, your family, you guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.